It seems to me that there is a real need to focus children in these metropolitan countries like Britain on human rights abuses in our own space and understand how that plays into the way education policies are framed, schooling practices are framed. Recently, last year, Gavin Williamson brought in these behavior hubs, which are frightening things. And more, it squeezes students into a corner. It makes schools seem like boot camps. And generally speaking, that whole business about openness and creativity and growth is pretty much out of the window. And one of the things that's alarming to us is the growing number of young people with special educational needs, complex needs, who are being excluded from school, even when the complex needs are leading to certain behaviors which contravene the school's own behavior codes and so on. It's brutal, it's punitive, and as a matter of fact, it is an assault on those children's own human rights. So it seems to me that we need to fight for, demand that the way schools organize themselves should be within, against a human rights backcloth, so that they're conscious all the time of the extent to which some of their own regimes are denying children their human rights. The Article 2 says children are entitled to an education, and that is irrespective of what they might do. But yet, more and more, we find a very punitive attitudes to children's conduct, as if it is not the responsibility of school to help them to unlearn inappropriate behaviors and grow holistically in a manner that actually enables them to be citizens in society that can lead to greater human values and the rest of it. So from that point of view, we find that the schooling system itself is broken and creating all kinds of casualties, and children who end up in pupil referral units and alternative provision and so forth, where less is expected of them. So it is getting rid of that overbearing, punitive attitude to children and their development, I think, is what is necessary if we're going to create a human rights schooling culture. Certainly in this country and more generally, there's a growing focus on decolonizing curriculum. It seems to me that this project of advancing human rights education and embedding it much more in terms of what schools do must be seen as a part of that. I don't believe that it's possible, frankly, to sensibly decolonize the curriculum if you don't, first of all, decolonize the institution. And part of the process of decolonizing the institution is to make schools, particularly, much more child-friendly and child-centered, meaning that you create space for the voice of the child. By doing so, engage with the child's realities. People like me who work in mainly sort of, inner city areas and so on, get quite alarmed at the extent to which schools try to keep outside the school gate issues to do with youth violence, for example, and the fear that young people have of one another, the way in which the youth justice system deny them fundamental rights, and what have you. Now, it seems to me that these things can be seen as peripheral to the school's main function and purpose. And if we're going to talk about decolonizing anything, we must also talk about how we decolonize the institution and create space for all of the things that I'm talking about. If I may say so, in this country, where government goes haywire with all kinds of mad schemes, seeking to undermine really the voice of the young person and their capacity to bring about those sorts of changes against a ruling order that seeks more and more to marginalize them and to suggest that the only purpose there is to schooling and education is to have high-level education results measured by examination and tests, as distinct from growing rounded individuals who can be encouraged and trained to engage in collective action in pursuit of change. So there is a lot of repair to be done, in my view, in our situation, even as we make comparisons between our human rights challenges here and those in other countries, and particularly in the global South.